Today on The Real Story, he's officially back. Republican Bob Stefanowski is making a second run for the governor's seat, and he says this time he's even more prepared. This morning, the candidate joins us once again to tell us why he thinks Connecticut needs a new leader. And then former state representative Brandon McGee is our guest. He surprised many when he decided to step down from his elected position serving Hartford and Windsor in the House. But he says he has a new direction and a new purpose. We're going to talk about his decision and discuss what's next. It's all today on The Real Story. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Jenn Bernstein. The governor's race is starting to take shape. Republican Bob Stefanowski made it official last week that he's decided to run again. He faced off against now Governor Ned Lamont in the 2018 general election, and it was a close race. There was a difference of almost 45,000 votes. You may remember he didn't outright get the Republican nomination. There was a GOP primary against former Danbury Mayor Mark Boughton, which Stefanowski ended up winning. Well, now he says he has the name recognition, the leadership skills, and the playbook to bump Governor Lamont out of office and lead Connecticut in a new direction. Joining us this morning, Bob Stefanowski once again. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jen, for having me.
Appreciate it. So I know we actually talked live during our 4 p.m. newscast earlier in the week. So I want to start off with a similar question that I asked you before, because I want Real Story viewers to understand what your platform is. Why did you decide to get in the race?
Well, we've got some really terrific people, as you know, in Connecticut, Jen, hardworking, smart, industrious people, and they're tired right now. Governor Lamont has not done a very good job over the last 3 years. In my opinion, he's put politics and the interests of the people in Hartford ahead of the people that are out there. And a big reason that we're running is we're going to put the people over politics. We're going to focus on getting the cost of living down. We're going to focus on reducing crime and keeping people safe. And the third element will be transparency and accountability in government. And I've led organizations for the last 30 years. I know how to change a culture, and that's what we're going to do. We've got a plan to do it. We've got a well-funded campaign, and we're going to win this election, and we're going to make Connecticut better, not for the politicians, but for the people that are out there. And that's why we're excited about it, Jen.
What do you think your response has been since announcing last week?
You know, I got a call from my dad. He's 92, and he still lives in the house I grew up in. He said, "I can't get away from you on the TV today." We got great coverage on our announcement. We're getting hundreds, if not thousands, of calls from people that want to step up and volunteer, people that are really excited about it. And a lot of people are saying, we're going to give this one more chance before we leave Connecticut, because there are a lot of people in Connecticut right now, Jen, that want to stay here. They want to stay near their friends and family, but they simply can't afford to live here. We're the second highest tax state in the entire nation. Our utility bills are the highest in the continental U.S., and we've got a plan to go after expenses, get the cost of living down, and just make it more comfortable for people to be in Connecticut. So we've gotten a very, very nice response so far.
During your first campaign, you really ran on zero-based budgeting and eliminating the state's income tax. Are those still things that you would do if you were elected? And what's your economic message for people on what you would do?
Sure. It's much broader than taxes, and I am all for lowering taxes. And in fact, part of the plan is to lower the sales tax rate and part of the gas taxes to get those down. But it's much broader. It's affordability. We've got to get the price of gasoline down. It takes people $60 to fill up their tank. Utility bills have now become, in a lot of cases, higher than people's rent bills or higher than their car payment. And that's unacceptable. We need to be tougher on the energy companies. Safety is a big issue in Connecticut. Hartford and New Haven had their most violent year last year in decades. So we need to support the police forces and others out there that are out there, making sure people are safe. So will tax reform be part of it? Absolutely, but it's going to be a much, much broader platform, Jen. this time around.
Let's talk about the energy companies that you just mentioned. How
Yeah.
could we hold them more accountable? I mean, they've been in the news a lot this past year. Obviously, Eversource ended up getting fined by Pura and the Attorney General's office. What more could the state and the governor have done?
A couple specific things, Jen. Number one is energy companies, and many people don't know this, but energy companies are guaranteed a rate of return every year. So regardless of their performance, they are guaranteed a return on equity. That's fundamentally wrong. Just like everybody else in the world, energy companies should be paid based upon their performance. And if they take 8 weeks to get service back up after a hurricane, like has happened before, and people have to go back out and buy groceries or prescription drugs, the energy company executives should not be getting millions of dollars in bonuses that year. It's pretty basic. And the second thing is, and I have to say, I admire the head of Pura because she came out against the settlement with Eversource. She voted against the governor and said these penalties on Eversource are not tough enough. You have to give her credit. The problem is there's still 2 open slots on the Pura, the Public Utility Regulatory Authority. Governor Lamont, or what I will do when I get in, is I will fill all 5 of those slots. I will get people in those roles that want to protect the consumer first. And we're going to get the cost of energy down, and we're going to get the level of service up. And that's really, really going to make people feel a lot better about their bill when it comes every month.
Last week, when you did your announcement, you also had an editorial that was in the Hartford Courant, and you've always have been for the last couple, well, I guess the last 2 years since we've been dealing with the pandemic, you have been critical of Governor Lamont from the outset. What's interesting about this op-ed is you do bring some solutions of what you think you would have done and would do. And I was reading some of them. So can you discuss what you think, where you think we went wrong, and what should be done with some of that COVID relief money that Connecticut got?
Sure. Well, first I'll step back, and you do have to have some sympathy for the situation Governor Lamont was put in. There was no playbook for COVID. If you remember, we thought it was transmitted by touching a desk or other things. And I honestly think he's tried to do the right thing. He's tried his best. But when you look at what happened with Omicron, when you see people are waiting in line for 3 hours to get a simple test, and the infection rate is the highest it's ever been, and he's at executive authorities, at some point you have to admit that you failed. What would I have done differently? First of all, we should have been quicker in getting PPE out to the nursing homes. Over 3/4 of the deaths from COVID have been people aged 65 and over, and many of those are in rest homes. So those are the people we need to protect. We got $6 billion in COVID money, Jen. We should have used that to buy home testing kits in advance so we weren't scrambling when it hit us during the holidays. We should have kept open the drive-through testing facilities. We should have created more step-down facilities because the hospitals right now are absolutely overloaded with COVID positive patients. And because there's no step-down facility, Governor Lamont has asked the nursing homes to take those patients in. Now that makes no common sense, and it's scary. You're taking infected patients and putting them into the population that's most at risk. So I think it's this one-size-fits-all approach. It's a lack of preparation, and it's sad to see it happen, but I think we could have been much better prepared coming into this year for Omicron than we were.
Talk about being prepared. You know what this run is going to be for the next year. It's exhausting, it's tiring, it's costly. Let's talk about some of the money already in the race. You've decided to put $10 million of your own money into the race. Tell us what it's going to be used for and why you decided to make that move.
Well, first of all, I kind of feel like it's now or never for Connecticut. You know, Democrats have been in control for 40 years. We have a governor who, in my opinion, is going to leave the state worse off after 4 years than what he inherited. And all the statistics point to that. Connecticut can't take another 4 years of it, Jen. We simply can't. We have to start to get the cost of living down. We have to start to get people to feel safe in their homes. Connecticut's been terrific to me. You know, my parents had very little. I didn't inherit hundreds of millions of dollars, but my parents sent us to good colleges, myself and my 3 sisters. We worked our tail off. We were lucky, and we're in a position that we can put some money in to take over this state and start to get it turned in the right direction. It wasn't an easy decision to make, Jen, but I think now's the time to do it. I've got the experience to do it. I've got a detailed plan this time around to do it. We know politics a lot better. We're going to win this thing, and we're going to turn the state of Connecticut around.
How do you get someone who might be working minimum wage here in Connecticut? They're struggling to just get by. Our state is expensive, there's no doubt about that. And they're hearing that you have $10 million to put into the race. How do you become relatable to them?
Well, first of all, I've earned it. I haven't inherited like others have. And I grew up on Dixwell Avenue in New Haven. I am a middle-class person, and most of the people that meet me think that, right? They don't know what you have in the bank. And I'm a relatable person. And most importantly, Jen, because I've been through the same thing, right? I've had to struggle to make a rent payment. My parents, we had 1 week of vacation every year at a lake up in Poland Spring, Maine, strangely enough. And I'm not complaining about that. I grew up, it was a converted closet. It was a walk-in closet that I slept in. I've got no complaints whatsoever because you know what, Jen? It was a terrific upbringing. And one of the reasons I'm running is because every single person in Connecticut should have the exact same opportunity I had, and it's not there today. We need to create vibrant cities for our kids so they want to stay. We don't need to just create jobs for young people. We need to create careers like I had. And that's what I'm excited about, Jen, because I've been through it. You know, my grandfather was not the person who founded J.P. Morgan like Governor Lamont was. I know what it's like to struggle. I care about people. And that's why we're doing it, because we really think we can help people make it a little bit easier initially and a lot easier over time to live here.
And people in Connecticut are going to start seeing a lot of you because you have a media ad buy that just went through. You and I were just discussing this before we started taping. A $1 million media buy. Kevin Rennie was just put out an article on his, well, this is last week, but he just put it out on his blog, Daily Ructions. And so these are going to start running Monday, which would be tomorrow. Tell us what people are going to see in these ads and what the point of them is.
Well, I think as you start, Jen, it's important to reintroduce yourself to the voters. And we had last week a 3-minute video about my upbringing and a lot of great people from across the state just telling what their frustrations are and as importantly, what some of the solutions are and how I, as governor and my administration, can help them be successful. Over time, we will evolve that into more specific issues. As I said, making people feel safer, more transparency around government. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to strengthen the state ethics code because right now it is way too lax. When you have legislators drinking during session like we had last year and testifying on the floor of the House of Representatives, and it makes national news, that's embarrassing for Connecticut. It's wrong, and it shows a lack of respect for the people that we're representing, the hardworking people of Connecticut that are giving us the money to spend. So one of the things I've done in my career is setting a culture of integrity, of honesty, of hard work, of discipline, of delivering on promises. And that's the story, which has the benefit of being true, that we're going to tell over the next 10 months. And I think it's going to resonate with people, Jen.
All right, Bob Stefanowski, now candidate for governor once again. Appreciate you coming back on The Real Story to talk about your platform. You're always welcome on, of course.
Thanks for having me on, Jen.
All right, coming up on The Real Story, former State Representative Brandon McGee has left public office to help Governor Ned Lamont run his re-election campaign. Ahead, Brandon will join us to explain his decision and give us a look at what his new role will look like. Stay with us on The Real Story.